leaving everything above the parietal ridge out. So it's going to be tighter at this front and a little bit longer in the crown. So we're taking this fairly short because it's a scissor cut, but then we're going to clipper cut. So see, I'm not doing the perimeter because we're going to pretend this is like a trim on a man from where you are. The sectioning is going to look a lot different because you're not clipping. So you have to like visually be able to look at like a finger's width. Does that make sense? So I cut that first section. Now I'm going to move to the second section. You see it? Mm-hmm. So you have to have some control with your scissors and your fingers and the hair. Now the doll is going to stick out. That's just how she's built and sewn in. So don't look at that. Look at, you see what I see there? Mm-hmm. Right here. So then moving down all the way through here.
So it's getting longer as you go though?
It's longer in the, yes, you're using forward movement so that you have a little bit of length here. Why would you want length here?
Right in this is like the,
what would you want length in the crown?
to cover like, there's probably like the word I can't think of right now.
A cowlick,
so
a
my
whirl.
lay pony, yeah.
Yes, so you're going to leave
longer.
some length in here. And also because the top is longer.
Yeah.
So to be able to tie in, but you're going to leave that length there to allow for growth patterns. This is no different than what we did last week. It's just shorter and tighter. The big difference on a man versus a woman with a scissor cut is you're not point cutting anything because you want the harshness of the lines. You're going to clipper the edge with a trimmer instead of point cutting like we did with our female. Remember, we're working to this corner. You see the weave there? That's going to leave right in the crown. So then we're going to come from this side and do the same thing. So I'm going to take this to that same area of the head. Make sure that you're balancing it. And then I'm going to turn to the front and do that same thing. If you pull this too far forward, there's nothing to cut, so watch. See how far forward that is? This is where you need to cut it. You see the difference? So some of you did that last week with your longer version. You like drug it too far forward, so there was nothing to cut. Very similar, yes, to what we did last week. There's the short from the opposite side. This is probably the last section that I'm cutting this way. So then this, I'll cut in a layer.
Does that come to a point or is it flat?
It comes to like a weighted area. It comes like kind of like a soft shape right there, like a U more than a point. Yes? Okay, so that's what you're cutting. You're doing the same exact thing, just tighter. No point cutting, no perimeter. You're going to go back and do your perimeter with your trimmers. Okay, have at it. Cutting that whole top straight up. Okay, so see how the top is cut? Now I'm going to do the entire parietal ridge and I'm going to connect. So the way that's going to look is this. You're going to start in the front. I'm starting on the left, you will start on the right because your fingertips are down when you start on the right, so you can have some grip here, and you're connecting this piece right here. And you're going to scoot back, scoot back. You want to avoid moving too far too quickly. What do you notice about my lower body right now? What happened as I came around the head?
It's pivoting.
Yep, so I'm going to always be facing the section that I'm cutting. You see in the back how there's more to cut? So you have to connect all the way to the bottom or all the way to the top of the previously cut section. You see that? It just flows in. Look at the difference from there. This is uncut. You see all that weight that's left behind? Right? So I'm going to keep working all the way around because my fingertips are down and it's easier to connect. This is where you could get lost because there's no visible section or clip. How can you check this? If I'm cutting vertically, how can I check this? Horizontally. The other part of this is make sure that you're like where it lives, that you're not moving away from, you're just following the head shape. So you're check like this. You see how this is longer right there? So I pulled it and didn't cut that. I cut too far here and too far here. So the shorter the hair is, the tighter that, or the smaller those sections have to get for more consistency. What questions do you have?
What do you do if they want that heavy top? It just doesn't get connected? That weight is just there?
There is a weight, but you stack it out
Okay.
so that it's more like a wedge, but it's called like a blowout on a man.
Okay.
So, all right, so cut your top just like that. Trimmers and edge work. So this would still require some edge work, right? So your trimmers, it's called a T-edger. I don't know if you have a T-edger, but it sticks out like a T.
Yes.
So some people like this, some people don't, but that it just allows you to like kind of use the corner of the clipper. That's what that's really for. So you're either using the clipper flat to make a straight line, or in curved areas you're using it just the little corner,
Yeah.
and you're either using it forward
With around 30 years.
or backward. So the way that you want to hold this is kind of like a TV remote, right? So when you're making a flat line, your thumb's kind of on the volume button. And this movement, the flick of the wrist, both ways, is a thing that you need to kind of perfect. It's like a soft movement. So for the edge work, we're now going to do basically a perimeter. I'm going to do it just like I do with scissors in the theory of it. I'm going to cut the center and I'm going to work my way out to make a straight line. And then I'm going to use the corner to come up along the edge and around the ear. Okay? So I'm just going to come straight in. Then I'm going to step to the side. Now, whether you make it square or round hairline perimeter is based on their hairline or their desire.
How do you make, so this is obviously squared, how would you make it round?
So around, you would kind of
You like literally just round it off?
Yeah.
Yep, you're just gonna round it off. It is based on their hairline. So if they have really low sides here
Yeah.
and you round it, it's gonna need more cleanup more often. So making a square would be better for somebody who has low sides. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's based on their hairline. Okay, so then here, I'm just gonna come up along this edge and give it a nice fresh cleanup. If this was short, like a clipper, you could use it flat like this along the hairline there. When you come here, you're gonna hold that ear forward and you're gonna come from behind. So you notice like my hand position has changed to this. So you come from behind this way, and then in the front, and then like this is not accurate because of it being a doll head. But you're going to give it a sideburn. So that comes flat, and then around the ear. And you would be holding the ear, but there's no ear to hold right now.
Is it easier on a person to
Yes.
Get a hair sticking out.
Yes, like see how this is like, it's just awkward. But it gives you good practice to go around a ear. The other part of a haircut, a men's haircut, is if there is hair here, you're taking it off.
on their ear?
Yes.
In their ear?
In their ear, on
In
their
the
yes.
ear.
You are like
necessary.
so you're gonna take the trimmer up around the ear like this.
I'm like in here.
Yes,
How are you gonna do that with the
like this.
It doesn't hurt
No.
them?
No, but you are there's like this part of the ear right here. Men get hair like right here, so then it looks like you didn't give him a clean hairline. Do you know what I'm saying? So you're taking it, you take that trimmer flat over the whole ear and in the ear canal. Eyebrows are part of a men's haircut.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
You ask them or you just do it?
I don't ask about the ears. That's just an awkward like thing to ask. Nobody wants hair on their ears. If they did, they would tell me.
Yeah.
They didn't want me to cut it off. Eyebrows. I trimmed somebody's eyebrows once, and they said they didn't want me to. So I always ask on the eyebrows, but I personally would just cut them off, like down.
You just.
So you could do it clipper over comb,
Okay.
or trimmer over comb, or you could do scissor over comb, whatever you're more comfortable with. And sometimes there's like one, and you're just freehanding. You just, like, I place my hand on their head so they don't move, and I cut it. So it just depends. But, so that's how you would do your edge work for this. And then see how this is like real fluffy? Like sticking out. Now, part of that is the doll, but the other thing you can do to give them like an extra couple days right around the ear, because once this starts touching the ear, their haircut no longer looks fresh. So what you can do is tilt your comb in and create a slight taper right around this area to buy them a little extra time. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's how you would do that. So that's trimmer work. Clippers. Clippers have a lever. It can be opened or closed. If the blade is longer, the hair is cut longer. If the blade is shorter, the hair is cut shorter. It's a matter of an 1/8 of an inch difference, but when you're talking about clippering, that's a big difference when the smaller the clipper guard. So not all numbers are created equal, meaning there's clippers that come with detachable blades, and they have blade sizes, and then there's clippers that come with guards, and there's guard sizes, but the numbers are the same. There's a 1 blade and there's a 1 guard. So if someone says, I like a number 3, that's not universal, is what I'm trying to get at. So a standard hairdresser clipper, not a barber clipper, is just a basic clipper with guards.
Yes.
A barber clipper has blades where they're doing like a bald fade, and they're switching that out with 1/8 of an inch difference on the blade. You're probably not going to do that unless you specialize in bald fades.
Those can still have guards too, though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So anyway, so you need to be aware if it's open or closed. I generally keep it closed unless I'm blending between 2 guards. Anyway, and guards are from 1 to 8. I would say 5 and up, I rarely use on a male. I'm gonna use that more for like a female who wants her nape like clippered or shorter. This is 1 inch. It's gonna cut at 1 inch. If I'm cutting 1 inch on a man, I'm probably gonna do scissors. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, and the bigger the guard gets, the more uneven the end result is with the clipper. So rarely will I use these guards on men from here up. So 4 through 1 are the ones that you're going to be using the most. I work top down. Your clipper, unless you're doing an old school buzz cut where you're cutting the top, is never going to breach the parietal ridge. Unless you're doing like a military cut where it's like high and tight and it comes up above the parietal ridge, your clippers should come straight up and never around this bend of the head. If it does, you're gonna cut in and then out. Does that make sense? You're gonna create like a light bulb head or something. No, that's not the right shape either that I'm trying to say, but when you're like, do you see this?
Like an hourglass.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah.
So where the comb is the way your clipper is going to come up the head. Now some people will say to take it and you scoop out.
Yeah.
Well, if you scoop out, you create like a ledge. So the best thing you can do
It's from high school.
Yes, that's what, it's not wrong. And newer stylists, they teach that, but
I don't do a lot
truly,
of these, though.
truly, okay, when you're doing this, your clipper should come like this. This is the heel of the clipper, this is the toe of the guard, sorry. And so you don't want the toe to dip against the round of the head. So think of this as the round of the head. That heel is gonna come and it's gonna follow. You're not gonna go like this with the toe. Do you see what I'm saying? You're gonna use the heel and come straight up, and you end up kind of floating towards the top because there's, you know, it wants to dip in. But if you dip in, you're cutting into the top of your scissor cut. Does that make sense? So the only time you're doing this motion is if you're actually gonna clipper the top of the head. Okay? So it should look like this, and you're just gonna come, I'm not gonna be able to do it, straight up. And naturally, it's going to build a graduation or a fade because it's gonna leave the head and then the hair is gonna be cut and left long. Does that make sense? Also, you can cut bottom to top or top to bottom. If you've watched any barber videos, they cut a line and then they blend the line out. The thing about the line is that it creates balance from left to right, right? So it's like you're at the right point. But once you put the line in, you have to take the line out. So ideally, as a hairdresser or as a hairstylist, we're not putting in bald fade, so we don't want a line. We want the least amount of weight and the least amount of work with our clipper. Let the clipper do the work for us without creating, you know, a harder job. So if we cut top down, we're gonna put the 4 in, then the 3, then the 2, then the 1. Or it could simply be, you know, that we're doing a 4, all of it a 4. But a 4 is a 1/2 inch, so you can tie that into the top very easily. Does that make sense? So we're just gonna cut this whole bottom with the number 4 right now, up to the parietal ridge, and we're gonna work on the motion. So the motion does look like this, but it's not a flick. It's a like straight up. So I want you to focus on the toe of the clipper, aiming for the ceiling. If it's going around, then you're hitting into the top, so it should go straight up. So it looks like this. Now, you're gonna wanna have your hand on top of the head so you can get a feel for if they move or what have you. But so I'm gonna place my hand right here and I'm gonna come straight up. And you see that clipper guard? Look at the toe. It's pointing straight up. So right now it's like kind of floating when you get towards that top. But it's not gonna leave like a weight, if you will. Like my scissor work, but you see how that like, it's longer there than it is there?
Can you demonstrate the other side with the flip? Like, what's
So,
gonna happen to her?
This is the flick.
That's no good.
It's not that it's no good, I just find that,
These almost like a point.
like this is the flick. It's not wrong, I just find that it's not as blended.
Hello. How are you?
Hi.
I'm looking for a restaurant called the Romo.
Entire other side of the plaza. It's facing, it's in this plaza, but it's facing 41.
Okay, so.
Are you parked here?
I'm parked right here.
So what you want to do is just go follow the building around,
Yeah,
but don't leave the plaza. Stay in the parking lot, go around, and you'll run right into it.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome. I think it is. So it's not wrong. I just find that the flick usually creates more blending issues. So then, as you come around, sometimes you're just using like a portion of your clipper, like right here. If you want this tight, you can't take your clipper flat. So I'm using it like this and like this. Does that make sense? Around the ear. And then when I come into the nape, I'm tucking it in down here. That's where that flick of the wrist kind of takes place. You know what I mean? Like I'm tucking it in, but then as I get to that parietal ridge, look at my clipper. You see how that happens? And you see how there's like no heavy line.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tuck in and you do tend to, you tend to drop the back down, especially if they have a strong cowlick. That's a question though. Some people don't want that back to drop down. And if it doesn't, then you're gonna go all, you know, like kind of balanced all the way around to the sides.
So it blends.
Mm-hmm. It's just a personal preference, but see how long that top is? It's creating a little bit of a weight line.
Yeah.
But that's okay as long as I haven't, like what you want to avoid doing is this. That motion is going to create like a harsh line. And if you go too high, once you're too high, you're in trouble. You can't like put it back. You just cut it too short. But again, you know, I have my thumb on the volume, if you will.
So the only way to get rid of that weight line is by you doing this.
This weight line here.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
No.
When I go to cut this, do you see how this grows in length already? So then I'll tie it in with that.
So after you do that, then you go back.
Then
with
I'm
the
gonna scissor cut this
Okay.
top. The key is that you don't put a harsh line. Like that weight's there because of the length of this, but you don't wanna go in. What you wanna avoid doing is this. You wanna avoid that. Like see how I just pulled it off?
Yeah.
So if you can blend out anything if you're soft enough with the clipper. You see how that's like a softer blend? Does that make sense? So it's the way that you take it off the head, you have to, and the smaller the blade gets, the less heel you have. Think of how big that heel was on the 4. Now I'm strictly working with this little motion, the smaller that guard gets. Does that make sense? So what I want you to do is take the 4, stay below the parietal ridge, get comfortable holding the clipper, and work all the way around, just below the parietal ridge with this motion, and I'm going to come by and see how you're holding the clipper and see if you need to make that adjustment. If you need to clip the top out of the way, feel free to do so. Any questions? All right, have fun. So on one side, I'm going to do a fade all the way down to a 1. So this whole side I'm going to do to a 1, and the other side I'm just going to tie it into a 3, just a little bit shorter. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is where you're at. You have a 4 all the way around, your scissors are cut on top. So I'm going to put my 3 on, and I'm going to just not create any line. I'm just going to go up to the 4. This is where that rocking motion really comes in. I'm not scooping out, it's just a little flick of the wrist to tie in from the 3 to the 4. And I'm going to do this all the way around because this is what I'm doing on the other side.
Is that where they open or close?
This is closed. I usually don't open a 3 to a 4 because it's such a minute shift.
Yeah.
But when you move down to the 1 is when I start to. So do you see that how the motion has changed? It's more like this,
Yeah.
but not so. It's like a little flick. And if you go really slow, like you can watch the hair kind of leave the clipper.
Is closed when it cuts more or less?
It's shorter when it's closed,
Okay.
longer when it's open.
Open, okay.
Okay, so this would be if I was just tapering it down just a little bit more, right? But now I'm going to take it all the way down to a 1. So I'm going to go from a 3 to a 2. And it's in the angle of my clipper. But I'm not cutting anything in that 3. see how there's like no visible line? Okay, so the 1 is when I would open my clipper. So I'm gonna do the 1 open.
Opens 1.5.
Still not creating any lines because it's the movement of my clipper. And because I've already cut 4, 3, 2. Do you know what I mean? You can see the difference it was for doing it from a 4 to a 1. Does that make sense? So then you could close it and take it even tighter. Once you move down below a 1 is when it's really hard to blend any mishap that you might have. And I can tell you like maybe 5 times in the last year or 2 years that I've taken my down to a bald fade, because that's not what we do here. Do you know what I mean? So that doesn't need to be mastered. It's more about the blend of the clippers. See this weight that's sitting up here? So the other thing you can do is, you want more of a wider comb. This is actually a clipper comb because it has like where you can ride your clipper along it, but it's big enough that I'm not going to cut a hole. If you use a regular comb with your full-size clipper, you might actually cut a hole. But so then I can come right in here and just take this weight off. You see how that, when I use my clipper, I'm going straight. Like my comb is staying straight. I'm not dipping in here. I'm using it just as if it's an extension of my clipper. But you have to be really cautious because you can make a big hole fairly quickly. But you see how quickly that could blend out something that's longer? Not looking at the spots of color or the longer on top. Yes? Okay. How about it?